So we're looking at some code today, and I'm going to write it from scratch. I made some notes and just checked out what I need. We're going to be using RE, so regular expressions, and pip install dnspython. So we're going to be checking an MX record, which is a mail exchange record. So we're going to be checking to see whether the mail server actually exists for that domain. And yeah, we're going to check to see if the email address is a valid format, and then we're going to check whether the MX record exists. And I think that's going to do for the start, and we'll build upon it from there. So add some more features and so on. So yeah, really this will be a kind of, if you've not done regular expressions in any depth before, then nor have I, to be honest. But what we'll do is we'll just have a quick look at how you use re.match, re.search. We'll discuss the differences, and yeah, we'll install dnspython and have a look at what that does. So if that's of interest, yeah, let's get going, shall we? Okay, so we're going to look at writing something today, which we're going to be writing it from scratch, and let's just make some notes. So the first thing to look at is, first thing to consider is validating email addresses. Now, there are many paid services which do this in bulk, and they run many more sophisticated checks than what we will be writing. However, this is a good programming exercise, and I think it's worth doing, and it's worth some general awareness of things such as regular expressions, and this, which I'm just going to paste in from my notes, which is pip install dnspython. Now, I've already installed it, and yeah, as always, one of the issues is trying to show you something when I've already run it. And yeah, pip3 install dnspython, and as you see, requirement already satisfied. But yeah, there we go. That's what you need to run. Why are we doing this? Well, I had a subscriber ask me about this, and I think I put a screenshot of his question in the previous video. What we want to do is check if an email address is valid. Now, how do we know if it's valid? Well, you know if the email address format is valid because you can check that with regular expressions. So that's why we want to import RE. Now, that will only tell you if it's got you know, an @ symbol, if it's got a period character, and followed by .com, .net, whatever. So that will just tell you if it's valid, as if the format is valid. It won't tell you if the address exists or if it's if the domain exists. So that's why I'm going to break it up into two parts. And really, this is going to be quite a basic bit of code, really, but it's just going to introduce us to using dnspython and regular expressions. So first thing I want to do is let's just get familiar with regular expression checking of an email address format. And what we will do is let's just look. I've already put the link to Stack Overflow question about the difference between re.match and re.search. Now, long story short, we're going to use re.search. So let's just experiment with that. So let's just save this so that we can run it and put it in my Python scripts. Email validator.py. Okay, and yeah, let's just begin at the beginning. So our variable x equals re.search, and then we're going to search some text. txt, and we need a variable called txt equals, and that will just be a string, the rain in Spain falls the plane. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to search for Spain within that text string, so that will be true. And if we just print brilliant x, run it, and then we see we've got a match object. So we can also say something like if x print we have a match. Right. Let's just make this font slightly bigger. There we go. Hope that helps. Else print not found. Apologies for the bad typing. I'll blame the cold weather. My hand's cold. Yeah, right. So we have a match. If we instead of Spain, if we look for let's say Italy, not found. So good. What we can do with search is search for we can search an entire string for an occurrence of one word. Now we can do that. The next thing is let's look at how we can search, see if the user has made a typo. So I quite often do it, as you know, not a good typist. What you might often do is do something like I'll just put you might put gmail.com. I often do that, or gmal.com, gmail.com. You know, you get the idea. Right. So what we want to do is just actually let's comment that out. And instead, what we'll do is we'll say if re.search. So we're going to search for misspellings of Gmail. So we'll call our example test@gmail.com. And actually what we'll do is we'll deliberately misspell it, because this is what I want to demonstrate. So then we'll say we're going to search for @gmial.com within our example, and then we will print, did you mean gmail.com? Let's run that. And we've got an error because I didn't put an equal sign in there. Let's run it again. Colon. And there we go. So it knows that we've spelt Gmail wrong, which is nice. But obviously there's more than one misspelling of Gmail. And to overcome that, what we need to do is make our regular expression a little bit more intelligent, should we say. And so the .com, if you've seen an irregular expression before, you'll know that the dollar means ends with. So we'll put that in on the end. And what we need to put in here is GM. We'll assume that the misspelling always begins with GM and ends with L. So instead we can say if it's got an AI IA in the middle, or an A in the middle, or an I in the middle. So if it begins with GM and then it's got IA, or, so the pipe is the or, so or the A or the I followed by L, then it will say, did you mean Gmail? So let's run that. Good. So let's just adjust that misspelling, and instead we'll put gmal.com, and it still knows that it's wrong. But what if we put gmal? It doesn't find the error. So how much you want to check for errors is up to you, but we're just interested in the common errors, so let's leave it at that. So this is part 1. Check for typo in domain name. Part 2, we want to, let's think what we need to do next. We want to verify the address, but there's no point verifying if going out onto the internet to verify if the domain name exists if the email address is a load of gobbledygook anyway. No. This is where you need to copy and paste, and I'll put my code on GitHub and you can do the same, but trying to remember this or type it each time. This is one of those things that you need to be familiar with, but probably you'll copy and paste it if you ever use it. And we're going to use match here instead of search. And so re.match. What we want to do is we want to find address to verify. And I've typed this already because it's quicker. Some.body@madeupname.com. Now, that's a valid email address format, so we should get, that should be okay. Right, paste this in. This is our pattern that we want to match. And then address to verify. So that pattern is basically saying it starts with some characters, followed by possibly a dot, followed by some more characters, and maybe a dot and some more characters, and wildcard. Oh yeah, and the @ symbol. So it's then followed by an @ symbol and some more characters, and then a dot, and then a wildcard of between 2 and 4. So that's if you've got, for instance, a .com would just match this, or a .co.uk would match this, and then that. We're going to try and find a match within this. So that's a valid email address. So really, we should be that should be returning true. So let's just say if match equals none, then we're going to throw up an error. So print bad syntax, and then we'll raise a value error. Bad syntax. Let's run that. And we've got no error because some.body@madeupname.com is a valid email address format. So let's put in another dot in there, and I don't know, let's put a hyphen in there. We'll run it now, and it's still okay. So let's remove the @ symbol, run it again, and here we see bad syntax. So let's put that @ symbol back in, and it accepts it. So the pattern is looking for an @ symbol in the middle of the email address. So if you forget to put the @ symbol, or let's try removing that altogether. So you've got no characters before the @ symbol. And again, bad syntax. So we want it to throw an error. So that is part 2. Now, part 3, we've checked. In part 1, we've checked if there's a typo, for instance, with Gmail, and we could do that for Hotmail and Outlook or whatever. We've verified the address has got an @ symbol in the middle, and we've matched on that big long pattern, which is, yeah, looks horrible, doesn't it? Right. Part 3. We want to check basically we're checking the MX record. And what we'll do here is we will use I'm going to remove that, don't need that anymore. We'll use the DNS resolver, so space down, and then we're going to say, let's do try and accept, so try records equals DNS resolver dot resolve, and if you don't use resolve, you'll get an error about use query, which was the old format, then you'll get a message about it being deprecated. So you do need to use resolve. http://subscribe to me.com. Let's call it subscribe to drpi.com. I'm pretty sure that won't exist. And because the domain won't exist, then there should not be an MX record for it, because you'll get an MX record if a domain exists. So MX record equals records. I've looked this up. So this is, you're looking for the first item in the returned MX record, dot exchange MX record. I'll put some info up about this MX record check. Just happy to watch me type one more line, and then we'll see what it actually does, and then we can read a bit more about it afterwards. So get an exception. Except print domain doesn't exist. And we've got bad syntax, and that's because we had that there. So instead, let's do, we don't want that anymore. That's just rubbish that we were using to test with. So instead, let's just put in here, and we will do, I don't know, sales at. So what we should get, it should pass check 2 because it's a valid format. But it should fail on step 3 because the domain doesn't exist. So we're expecting to see domain doesn't exist. And there we go. So this has been, I think it's been a quite a basic, but hopefully inspirational video on how to check email addresses, for check if the format's valid, and then check if the MX record actually exists. And MX means mail exchange, and it's fundamental to how email works. So yeah, I'll put up some links. You can read more about MX records and so on, and you can also read up on the difference between regular expression search and regular expression match. So if you're checking if for a valid format for an email address, you'll need to use match. If you want to search for instance of a word in a string, then you need to use search. And there's a good article on Stack Overflow explaining the differences, and a fairly recent post was advocating using search wherever possible. And yeah, search is actually just nicer to use. So I will put the code on GitHub, and if you've got any comments, questions, then drop me a comment in the comment down here somewhere. And thanks for watching, and I'll be back with something soon, probably an update on my multiple spider scrapey project, scraping news websites. So until then, thanks for watching.